take a deep breath. Let the air flow slowly into your lungs and release it like a sigh that has been waiting all day to rest. Again, breathe in quietly, peacefully, and feel your shoulders grow heavy, your eyes soften, and your thoughts begin to slow like pebbles sinking to the bottom of a still pond. You are safe here, you are warm, and soon you'll be walking through a place where time itself forgot to hurry. Tonight, you're taking a gentle tour, one that asks nothing of you but curiosity and calm. No rushing crowds, no tour guides waving flags, no chatter of cameras, just you, the evening air, and the faint scent of moss-covered stones waiting under the moonlight. The ruins rest on a small hill, surrounded by tall, silver-leaved trees. Their branches sway lazily, whispering stories too quiet to understand. A narrow path curls up toward the site, paved with uneven stones that have seen more sunsets than anyone alive. You walk along it slowly, your shoes tapping softly. Tock, 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 the rhythm of unhurried discovery. A light mist hugs the ground, glowing faintly in the moon's embrace. It clings to the edges of old walls, crumbled, mossy, and perfectly unremarkable. There is no grandeur here, no towering columns or golden treasures. The ruins are content with being dull, and somehow that dullness feels like peace. You stop beside a low stone wall, running your fingers along its rough, cool surface. Tiny ferns have taken root in its cracks. When you look closer, you notice little white flowers peeking through the gaps, unbothered by history, quietly blooming, as if to say, "We're still here." A soft breeze rolls across the hill. It carries the scent of wet earth and wild thyme. You close your eyes for a moment, listening. There's the gentle chirp of crickets somewhere in the grass, the soft coo of a dove, tucked away in the rafters of a broken arch, and beyond all that a silence, so deep it feels like an embrace. A flicker of warm light appears up ahead, not bright, not modern, just a cozy amber glow, like a lantern left behind by someone who meant to return but never did. You follow it, curious but calm, the gravel crunching faintly under your steps. At the center of the ruin stands a half-collapsed structure, perhaps once a temple or a library, or maybe just a large house where people gathered long ago. No one knows anymore. The wind moves through its hollow spaces with a sighing sound, as though it too is remembering something faintly amusing, but not important enough to tell. The lantern hangs from a crooked beam. Beneath it sits a small wooden stool, and on that stool, believe it or not, a cat, a plump, sleepy-looking tabby with stripes the color of toasted bread. Its tail flicks lazily as it watches you approach, not alarmed, not surprised. "Ah," you murmur softly, "a guardian of the ruins." The cat yawns, stretches, and hops down from its perch. It pads toward you, tail curling like a question mark, and rubs its side against your ankle. Its fur is impossibly soft, like brushed velvet warmed by sunlight. You crouch to pet it, and it purrs a low, steady sound that vibrates through the cool night air. The moment feels timeless. Maybe the cat has been here for centuries, purring at every visitor who dares to find beauty in boredom. Behind you, the ruins hum quietly. It's not a real sound, not exactly, but more like the feeling of something old and kind that has stopped caring about being impressive. The stones have no stories of heroes or gods. They don't boast of battles or miracles. They're simply content to exist, to be old and quiet and still standing. You wander deeper inside, your lantern now borrowed from a hook near the wall. The warm glow dances across faded carvings, circles, spirals, and symbols that lead nowhere. Some are half erased by time, others by lichen, yet they seem friendly somehow, like doodles made by someone with eternity to spare. A gentle drizzle begins to fall. You hear it before you feel it, a pattering on leaves, on stone, on your shoulders. The air smells of petrichor and something faintly sweet, perhaps the blooming night flowers that hide among the cracks. You lift your face to the drizzle and smile. In the distance, thunder murmurs softly, like an old man clearing his throat before going back to sleep. You find shelter beneath a leaning archway, its top long gone, its sides covered in vines. You sit on a cool stone ledge, the cat curling beside you, both of you watching the rain fall through the holes in the roof. The lantern light flickers golden across the stone, reflecting off puddles that ripple gently with every drop. For a while, you do nothing. You just breathe. The world, for once, asks nothing of you. Even the ruins, ancient and unimpressive, seem to nod in agreement. It's all right to rest here a while. The rain softens, the cat purrs again, and somewhere in the dark, a gentle melody rises, not quite music, not quite wind perhaps, just the hum of old stone dreaming. As you close your eyes, your thoughts drift like leaves in slow water. You are safe, you are welcome, and the ruins, those quiet, stubborn ruins that refuse to be interesting, seem to smile in their own unhurried way. The rain has stopped now. The mist clings gently to the air, wrapping the ruins in a faint silver haze. Drops of water hang from the edges of the stones, trembling with the soft breath of the wind before slipping down, one by one, into the thirsty earth. You stretch your legs, still feeling the warmth of the cat pressed against your side. It blinks up at you sleepily, gives a small, polite meow, and curls back into a perfect circle. Its fur, faintly damp from the mist, smells faintly of old wood and something sweet like dried herbs. You smile and whisper a quiet thank you to your silent little companion before standing again. The lantern light wobbles as you lift it. It casts long, slow-moving shadows across the ground, turning moss into miniature forests and small pebbles into great forgotten mountains. Everywhere around you, the ruins shimmer softly with moisture walls, columns, and stones that don't remember what they once were. You begin to walk again, following what might once have been a corridor. The air feels thick with history, though not the heavy kind. It's not crowded with kings or empires or wars. This place feels more like a memory of laughter, of someone dropping a clay bowl and deciding it wasn't worth fixing, of children chasing each other through courtyards now lost to time, of bread baking somewhere nearby, filling the air with warmth. Your steps echo faintly, though there's no roof to catch the sound, just the open sky, dim and soft, and a few stars blinking shyly through the remaining mist. As you wander, the path begins to curve, and soon the ruins give way to what looks like a garden, or what used to be one. The stones here are lower, scattered in uneven rings, and between them, wildflowers have claimed their territory. They grow in quiet abundance, soft lilac blossoms, pale yellow buds, and white petals that gleam faintly like moonlit lace. You kneel down, running your fingers gently along one of the flowers. Its petals are cool to the touch, still damp with dew. When you bring your hand close to your face, there's a scent clean, delicate, like fresh linen, hung to dry in the morning sunday. A thought drifts lazily across your mind. Perhaps beauty doesn't fade, it just learns to whisper instead of shout. Somewhere in the grass, a frog croaks once, lazily, then again, softer, like a drowsy musician, unsure if anyone is listening. The sound makes you laugh quietly. It's the perfect soundtrack for a ruin that refused to be interesting. You notice a narrow trail leading out of the garden. It's almost hidden, covered in patches of moss and surrounded by tall grass, but it's there, meandering away from the stones into a small grove of trees. You follow it because in places like this, every forgotten path feels like a gentle invitation. The grove is quiet, but not empty. You can hear a faint trickle of water somewhere deeper within, a small stream perhaps, or a spring hidden beneath roots. The air smells greener here, like rain-soaked leaves and earth. Your lantern glows warmly against the dark trunks of the trees. They stand tall and crooked, their bark smooth in some places, rough in others, patterned with moss, like an artist's half-finished painting. You reach the stream, just as you guessed. It's small and clear, winding softly around the roots like a silver ribbon. You crouch down and watch the way it moves, so lazily, so sure of itself. Tiny bubbles cling to the stones beneath the water, catching the lantern light and glowing like sleepy fireflies. You dip your fingers in. The water is cool, but gentle, not sharp. You let it flow over your hand, feeling it slide between your fingers like silk. For a while, you just sit there, listening to the trickle, watching the ripples move across the surface, catching the scent of moss and night air. Time feels strange here, not frozen, just uninterested. The ruins, the trees, the stream, they exist in their own rhythm, too patient for the concept of hours. When you finally look up again, you see something unexpected. Across the stream, on the other side of the grove, stands a small archway. It's not grand or tall, barely reaching your shoulders, but carved into it are delicate shapes, spirals, leaves, and something that looks almost like waves. You cross carefully, stepping on smooth stones that peak above the water's surface. Each step makes a tiny splash, echoing like a polite applause in the quiet night. The archway leads to a circular space surrounded by trees. In the middle stands an old stone bench, half covered in ivy. You sit down. The stone is cool beneath you, grounding and calm. Above, the canopy opens slightly, revealing a slice of sky so clear it feels unreal. The stars are brighter now, thousands of them, scattered carelessly across the velvet black. A soft breeze moves through the leaves, and somewhere high above, an owl hoots low, distant and soothing. You close your eyes for a moment, and it feels as though the ruins themselves are breathing with you slowly, gently, in rhythm with your calm heart. There's a faint rustling beside you. When you open your eyes, the cat has appeared again, as though it had always known where you'd go. It leaps gracefully onto the bench and settles beside you, curling its tail around its paws. "Did you follow me?" you whisper. The cat blinks, unimpressed, and begins to wash its paw. You laugh softly. It's good to have company, even the quiet kind. Together, you watch the stars for a while longer. The night stretches on like a warm blanket, filled with the sounds of crickets, leaves, and the soft trickle of the stream. And as you lean back, letting your head rest against the ivy-covered stone, you realize something simple and comforting. There's no need for these ruins to be grand or dramatic. Their peace, their stillness, their refusal to impress is exactly what makes them perfect for dreaming. The first hints of dawn have not yet arrived, and the air still belongs to the night. The cat stretches on the bench, arches its back, and pads away into the shadows, leaving you alone in the gentle breath of the grove. The lantern light sways faintly in your hand, its flame soft and steady. You decide to explore a little further, just a little, as the mood of the place invites no haste. The path curls again, this time uphill, bordered by stones half swallowed by moss. You follow it as it climbs toward another section of the ruins. The sound of the stream fades behind you, replaced by the faint sigh of the wind moving through open corridors. When you reach the top, you find a large rectangular courtyard, if it can still be called that. The walls are mostly gone, yet their shapes remain outlined in ivy and scattered stones. In the center stands something curious, a stone structure that looks like a very small temple or shrine with steps leading up to a dark doorway. You climb the steps slowly, feeling the cool stone under your fingertips as you steady yourself. Each step hums faintly, as if remembering the rhythm of 1,000 other quiet ascents. Inside, the air is cooler. The lantern light stretches long across the floor, revealing shelves carved directly into the walls, lined with old clay jars, cracked tablets, and the curled fragments of what might once have been scrolls. A dry, pleasant smell of dust and herbs fills the space. You realize this must have been some sort of library, though not a grand one. A place for storing local stories, perhaps. The humbler kind: recipes, jokes, records of rainfall, the gossip of harvests long forgotten. And seated at a low desk near the back is someone, or rather, something. A small figure, wrapped in layers of faded linen and soft grey robes, leans over a pile of papers. Its round glasses are perched crookedly on a nose that seems to be carved from wood. The head tilts, turning slowly toward you, and a voice dry and gentle as paper turning says, "Oh, a visitor. You're early, or perhaps very late. It's hard to tell anymore." You pause, unsure how to respond, but the figure waves one linen-wrapped hand in reassurance. "Don't be alarmed," it says. "I'm just the archivist. I look after the stories no one bothers to remember." The archivist gestures to the shelves, which seem to hum softly at the mention of stories. Most people expect temples of glory, relics of heroes, prophecies and such, but this place was built to keep the small things. You step closer, curiosity stirring gently. "Small things?" "Yes," the archivist replies, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. The number of geese that wandered through the East Gate one summer, the recipe for a stew that was said to cure the blues, the name of a child who once dropped a pebble into the well and declared it the sound of thunder. It chuckles softly, a sound like parchment crinkling. The grand tales crumble first, you see. The small ones linger. They are too humble to be remembered properly, so they hide between the stones. The archivist adjusts its glasses and peers at you. "Would you like to hear one?" You nod, and the figure carefully opens a thin clay tablet, brushing dust away with almost tender care. It begins to read in a soothing, almost melodic voice. "Once, upon a very quiet noon, a man forgot why he came to the market. He stood there for so long that the pigeons began to think he was one of them. They landed on his arms, his shoulders, his head. When he finally remembered he had come for onions, he left with feathers in his hair and laughter following him home." The archivist smiles, the lines of its wooden face deepening with warmth. "See? Not grand, not important, But it happened, and that is enough. You find yourself smiling too. The story is nothing, and yet it feels oddly precious, like finding a seashell that no one else noticed. The archivist sets the tablet aside. "Would you like to rest here a while?" it asks softly. The stones like listeners. They say it helps them remember what they once were. You sit cross-legged on the cool floor. The lantern flickers, casting golden ripples of light across the dusty walls. The archivist hums a slow, tuneless melody as it tidies its scrolls. The air feels thick with comfort, the kind that makes you drowsy without effort. You lean back against the wall, watching the lantern flame dance. From somewhere deeper in the ruins, you hear faint music, a plucked string perhaps, or just the whisper of the wind through broken corridors. It doesn't matter which. The sound wraps around you like soft cloth, warm and protective. The archivist speaks again, voice barely above a whisper. "When you leave, take a story with you, not one of the old ones, one of your own. Maybe about the cat, or the rain, or the way the stars look tonight. It will join the others. Even unimportant things deserve a place. You promise that you will." And when you finally stand, the archivist gives you a small nod, eyes glowing faintly behind its crooked glasses. As you step back outside, the cool night air greets you like an old friend. The ruins stretch ahead, silver and quiet, and the cat is waiting again on the path, tail swishing, eyes half-lidded with sleep. "Come on then," you whisper to it, smiling. "Let's see what else these ruins are trying not to show us." The cat meows softly, as if agreeing, and together you walk down the steps toward another piece of history that has forgotten to be impressive. The lantern sways, the stones hum faintly, and above you, the stars begin to fade, pale hints of morning sneaking into the sky. The night sighs as you and the cat wander back down the hill, leaving the archivist's quiet temple behind. The mist has thinned, and the edges of the world begin to blur into soft tones of gray and lavender. Dawn is not yet here, but it's thinking about arriving. The air is gentle, like silk brushed against your skin. The ground glistens faintly with dew, and each step you take releases a subtle scent of grass and earth and time. The cat pads silently beside you, tail flicking lazily like a metronome, marking the tempo of the world's slow awakening. You pass through a crumbling archway into another part of the ruins, a wide open courtyard surrounded by low stone columns. At first glance, it seems entirely ordinary. Nothing gleams, nothing calls attention, just broken stones, tufts of grass, and the faint remains of a mosaic floor, worn smooth by centuries of rain and silence. And yet, there is something comforting about its very emptiness. It feels like a pause in the world. You walk slowly to the center, where the stones form a circular pattern barely visible now, but the design can still be traced by touch. You kneel and brush away some fallen leaves. Beneath them lies a faint spiral, etched into the rock long ago. The spiral feels smooth beneath your fingertips, its grooves filled with tiny pebbles and bits of moss. You follow its curve, turning slowly inward until your hand rests at the very center. The air here feels different, heavier, but not in a troubling way, more like concentrated stillness. The cat sits nearby, staring into the mist, its ears twitching occasionally at invisible sounds. You close your eyes for a moment, and an image begins to drift into your mind. Not a memory, not quite a dream. You see people, perhaps the ones who built this place, moving around the courtyard in gentle silence. A woman lays a basket of herbs on the ground, A man ties a cord around a pillar. Children trace spirals in the dirt with sticks, laughing softly. There's no ceremony, no grand event, just life, small and steady. And then the image fades, leaving only the quiet hum of the wind and the low chirp of a bird testing its morning voice. You exhale. The ruins seem to exhale with you. Something tugs gently at your attention. A faint sound, almost like whispering. You turn your head, listening. It isn't the wind. It's softer, steadier, coming from the far end of the courtyard. You rise and walk toward it. The whisper grows clearer, not words, exactly, but something between a sigh and a song. The stones hum faintly underfoot, as though remembering footsteps that once moved this same path. You find the source soon enough. A small stone basin built into the ground, filled with rainwater. Around its rim are delicate carvings, waves, clouds, tiny leaves. You kneel beside it, peering into the water. Your reflection stares back, blurred by ripples. Behind it, faintly, something shimmers, a shape, or perhaps a trick of the light. You lean closer. The water glows softly for a moment, not bright, just a pulse of pale silver. Then it fades, leaving behind the scent of something ancient and clean, like rain on new stone. The cat joins you, lapping once at the basin before curling up next to it, utterly unimpressed by ancient mysteries. You chuckle. You really don't care about magic, do you? The cat opens one eye, gives you the slow blink of infinite feline wisdom, and promptly goes back to sleep. You decide to sit for a while, the lantern beside you casting faint golden ripples across the water. The courtyard is silent again. Even the breeze seems hesitant to disturb it, and as you sit, you notice the strangest thing of all. The longer you stay here, the more peaceful your thoughts become, not because anything happens, but because nothing does. There is no story to chase, no mystery to solve, no hidden treasure to uncover, just a courtyard that exists for its own quiet sake. You begin to understand what the archivist meant about small things. The world is full of places that insist on being extraordinary, but here, in this soft, unremarkable courtyard, you find something rarer, gentle permission to do absolutely nothing. You take a deep breath, the kind that fills your chest and empties your thoughts. The air feels heavier with morning now. A faint pink begins to bloom along the horizon. You tilt your head back and watch the color spread slowly, lazily, like honey poured across stone. The ruins shift in the changing light. The gray stones blush faintly with warmth. The dew sparkles. The shadows soften. Everything around you seems to stretch and wake, not with drama, but with quiet contentment. The cat stirs, yawns, and sits up. It looks toward the east, where a single ray of dawn has touched the highest wall. Then it looks back at you, blinking. "I suppose that means it's time to go," you whisper. The cat stands, stretches, and begins to walk toward a narrow archway leading out of the courtyard. You follow, taking one last glance back at the spiral in the center. It gleams faintly in the new light, a simple pattern carved by forgotten hands perhaps, meant to remind whoever came here that life moves in circles, not lines. You smile softly and step through the archway. The morning air greets you like a gentle sigh. Somewhere, a bird calls again, this time brighter, bolder. The ruins are waking, and so, in their own sleepy way, are you. The air shifts as you pass through the archway, carrying with it a soft scent of something comforting. Warm bread, perhaps, or roasted grains, it makes your stomach give a polite little grumble, which sounds almost comical in the stillness of the ruins. The cat, walking just ahead, flicks an ear backward as if it heard your hunger. It pauses, gives you a long, deliberate look, and then continues on, tail swaying like a metronome of mischief. You follow, smiling, your lantern casting long ribbons of gold across the stone floor. The path leads downward now, winding between walls draped in ivy and dotted with tiny pink flowers that seem to be glowing faintly in the early morning light. The sun is still shy, peaking just above the horizon, painting everything with soft strokes of gold and rose. You begin to hear something new, a faint, clinking sound, rhythmic and gentle, like pottery being set on a table. Then a voice, low and sleepy, humming an old tune that doesn't seem to have words. When you turn the corner, you find yourself standing at the threshold of what must once have been a communal kitchen or dining hall. The ceiling is mostly gone, letting beams of dawn spill freely inside. In the center, a long stone table sits beneath the open sky, and beside it, sitting on a stool that looks much too small for him, is a large, kindly-looking man with silver hair and a beard that tumbles halfway down his chest. His robe is the color of bread crust, dusted with flour, and his sleeves are rolled up to his elbows. In front of him, on the table, is a clay oven built from old stones. He looks up as you enter, his eyes bright, but not surprised. "Ah," he says, voice warm as toasted oats. "A traveler. You're just in time." The cat hops up onto the table without hesitation, earning a chuckle from the man. "And you've brought the inspector, I see. Good. Breakfast always tastes better when shared." You hesitate for a moment, unsure whether to speak, but he gestures to a bench across from him. "Sit. Sit. I've only made simple things. The ruins are not what they used to be, but the ovens still remember." You sit. The stone is cool beneath you, but the warmth from the nearby oven balances it perfectly. The air is filled with the scent of fresh bread, yeasty and rich, and something sweet, like honey or dried figs. The man opens the oven's clay door and pulls out a small round loaf, its crust golden and cracked in beautiful patterns. He places it on a wooden board and dusts off his hands. "I used to feed hundreds here," he says, slicing the loaf. "Now I feed whoever wanders by. You'd be surprised how many travelers come through at night. Dreamers, ghosts, cats." He breaks the bread and offers you a piece. You take it carefully. The crust is crisp, the inside soft and warm. You tear off a small piece, and it almost melts in your mouth, comforting, humble, and perfect. "Do you live here?" you ask. The man smiles faintly. "Live is a strong word. I linger. Someone must keep the ovens company." He gestures around the empty space. These walls once echoed with laughter. Every morning, the townsfolk would come to eat together before starting their day. They'd bring cheese, olives, bits of fruit, whatever they had. There was always chatter, always noise. Then, one day, the noise stopped, but the ovens, they never cooled completely. He looks down at the bread, as though listening to it. You can still feel the warmth of all those mornings, if you sit quietly enough. You do sit quietly, for a long while. The sun climbs a little higher, filtering through the broken ceiling in golden beams. Dust drifts lazily in the light, like tiny memories refusing to settle. The cat curls up beside the loaf, tail twitching, clearly content to nap through the meal. The man chuckles softly and reaches into a jar, pulling out small golden raisins. He scatters them on the table for the cat, who lazily bats one around before deciding to ignore it entirely. You sip from a clay cup. The man offers water, infused with mint leaves and something faintly citrus. It's cool and refreshing, grounding you perfectly in the moment. When you glance around, you notice faint carvings along the table's edge, tiny depictions of food, cups, spoons, and faces smiling mid-bite, a feast immortalized in stone. The man follows your gaze and smiles. We called it the table of everyday miracles, he says, because eating together was a miracle every single day. Simple, repetitive, predictable, but miraculous nonetheless. He leans back, eyes half closed. Grand temples crumble, palaces fade, but kitchens remember love the longest. His words hang in the air, glowing faintly like the embers in the oven. You finish your bread slowly, savoring every bite. It's the most ordinary thing you've ever tasted, and yet it feels sacred. When you finally stand to go, the man nods approvingly. Leave your cup, he says gently. The ruins will wash it in their own time. He glances at the cat, who has finally decided to sit upright, tail curling neatly around its paws. You'll see her again, he adds, smiling. She always knows the next turn before you do. You thank him. He waves it off. No need. Just remember to eat slowly. The world rushes too much. As you step back into the morning, you glance over your shoulder one last time. The man is gone. The oven still glows faintly, though no fire burns within. The bread loaf is half eaten, and beside it, the cat has left a small paw print in the flour. You can't help but smile. The ruins, dull and peaceful as ever, seem to hum with invisible warmth, as if somewhere beneath the moss and stone, 1,000 breakfasts are still being shared in silence. You take a deep breath, feeling full, not just in body, but in heart. The cat meows once, softly, and begins walking toward another archway, this one half buried in ivy and sunlight. You follow, knowing that wherever it leads next, the world will continue to unfold in its perfectly uneventful, beautifully gentle way. The air grows warmer as you follow the cat through the ivy-covered archway. Morning has now truly arrived. The light is soft and buttery, spilling over the stones with quiet affection. Dewdrops glimmer like tiny gems on the moss, and the ruins, once grey and sleepy, now seem faintly golden, as if they're stretching after a long, pleasant dream. The cat trots ahead with purpose, tail held high like a small, confident banner. You trail behind, lantern still in hand, though it no longer glows. Its only habit now, the comfort of holding something gentle in an uncertain place. The path soon narrows into a corridor that winds downward. The walls close in slightly, overgrown with roots that crawl like the veins of time itself. The air feels cooler again, touched with the scent of stone and earth and something older than memory. And then, at the end of that short corridor, you find it, a staircase carved from the same pale stone as the rest of the ruins. It spirals downward into darkness, not menacing darkness, but soft and quiet, like a blanket drawn over a sleepy child. The cat pauses at the top, looks over its shoulder, and blinks at you slowly, as if to say, "Well?" You smile faintly. "All right," you whisper. "Lead the way." You step onto the first stair. It's smooth and cool underfoot, worn down by countless other feet that walked this way long before yours. You begin to descend, each step echoing softly, tock, 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 a rhythm that feels strangely familiar, almost like a heartbeat. The air grows cooler still, and soon the light fades. You lift your lantern by instinct, and though its flame is dim, it seems to remember its duty and flickers gently to life again. Its warm glow paints soft light onto the walls, revealing faint carvings, spirals, stars, and waves, the same symbols you've seen scattered throughout the ruins. After a while, you notice something odd. The staircase doesn't seem to end. You keep walking, yet the turns continue spiraling, each curve almost identical to the one before. You pause once, thinking perhaps you've been walking in circles, but when you look behind you, the steps stretch upward and vanish into dimness, too far away to be the same few stairs repeated. The cat continues without hesitation, its paws silent, its tail flicking lazily like it's counting time. You follow, trusting the rhythm, and soon the descent begins to feel like meditation. Each step, a slow breath downward, each turn another release of thought. You begin to notice subtle changes. The air smells faintly of flowers, now wild lavender, maybe, or crushed mint. The carvings on the walls shift from geometric to organic leaves, feathers, fish, clouds, and with every rotation, you feel lighter, as though the weight of waking thoughts is being gently brushed away. Finally, the stairs end. They lead into a wide, circular chamber, softly illuminated by shafts of golden light that seem to come from nowhere. The floor is patterned with mosaics, tiny pieces of stone and shell, arranged into swirls and spirals that mirror the staircase above. In the center stands a fountain, but instead of water, it flows with sand, fine, pale sand that trickles endlessly from one level to another, whispering as it falls. The sound is hypnotic, like 100 tiny clocks sighing together. The cat walks up to the fountain and sits beside it, tail curling neatly around its paws. Its eyes catch the golden light, reflecting it like tiny suns. You kneel beside the fountain, watching the sand pour. It doesn't pile up, it simply vanishes as it reaches the lower basin, as though time itself is being poured away into the quiet. Etched into the rim are words faint and almost erased by age. You trace them with your fingertip, feeling their rhythm more than reading them. They say, "For those who came seeking meaning, may you find peace instead." You smile, the kind of smile that happens without effort. The sound of the falling sand fills the chamber, calm and steady. It's neither loud nor soft. It simply is, a sound that seems to cradle thought until it dissolves. You sit cross-legged on the cool floor. The lantern rests beside you, the flame flickering quietly as if it, too, is content to stay here for a while. The cat curls up next to you, eyes half closed, and begins to purr. The vibration blends perfectly with the whisper of the falling sand, the two sounds becoming one, a symphony of serenity. Time seems to lose its edges here. You can't tell if you've been sitting for a minute or an hour. The fountain continues its endless motion, the sand glinting like powdered starlight. A faint breeze drifts through the chamber, carrying with it the scent of rosemary and something sweetly metallic, like rain before it falls. It passes over your face, cool and kind, and you feel it sink into your skin, as if washing away every trace of worry. You close your eyes. The world narrows to the soft rhythm of sand and purrs and distant air. Your breathing slows until it matches the pace of the trickling fountain, and in that calm, you sense something, not a voice, not exactly, but a feeling. The ruins themselves seem to whisper, their words floating like dust motes in the golden light. You are part of this now. You are as old as the stones, as quiet as the sand, as patient as the cat beside you. You don't answer. There's nothing to say. You simply let the truth of it rest in your chest like a small, glowing ember. When you finally open your eyes, the light has shifted. The golden beams have turned softer, dimmer, like late afternoon. The cat stretches and looks up at you, as if to say, "Enough resting, there's more to see." You nod and rise. One last time, you watch the sand fall in its perfect rhythm, endless and effortless. Then you turn toward another archway, hidden in the shadowed edge of the chamber. The cat is already waiting there, tail flicking once, eyes gleaming like polished amber. You take one last look back at the fountain, the sound of sand still whispering eternally, peacefully, and step into the next corridor. The stairway, the fountain, the whispers, they remain behind, but somehow you feel as if they're still moving with you, hidden somewhere inside your steady breath. The corridor beyond the fountain curves upward again, its walls smooth and pale, glowing faintly as if lit from within. You can no longer tell whether it's morning or afternoon. The air carries the hush of timelessness, the kind that makes you forget how long you've been walking, how long you've been breathing this quiet. The cat pads ahead, graceful as ever, tail brushing gently against the wall now and then. Each touch leaves behind a faint shimmer, like moonlight spilled in a thin line. You follow the glimmer, one step after another, until the corridor opens into another wide hall. This one feels different. It's filled with light, but not sunlight. The ceiling is gone, replaced by open air, and yet the glow isn't coming from the sky. It floats in the air itself, in small orbs that drift lazily like jellyfish in deep water. Each orb hums softly, breathing in and out with pale color blue, gold, pink, and green, all faint as sighs. You stop in the doorway, awed, but calm, because nothing here startles everything, simply is. The orbs drift slowly, brushing against the tops of old stone columns, hovering over puddles, resting briefly on the curved remains of benches before gliding away again. The light they give off doesn't illuminate in the usual way it soothes. The cat walks directly into the field of light, pausing to let one of the glowing spheres touch its head. The orb flutters like a curious moth, then bursts into a shimmer of dust that dissolves into the air. You laugh quietly, and your voice sounds far away in the echoing hall. They like you. The cat looks back, unbothered, as if such praise is unnecessary. You step inside, and immediately you feel it, the warmth of the air, the soft tickle of energy brushing against your skin. One of the orbs drifts toward you, stopping just before your chest. It pulses gently, then dips lower, brushing against your hand. You reach out, and your fingers pass through it. It feels like warm breath, or the memory of sunlight on closed eyelids. For a moment, your whole hand glows faintly, then the light fades, leaving behind a tingling calm that spreads through your arm. You take a slow, deep breath, and the whole breathes with you. Every orb seems to shimmer a little brighter with your exhale, as though responding to your rhythm. And then you notice something at the far end of the hall, a tall mirror, cracked but still whole enough to reflect the dance of the lights. Its frame is covered in intricate carvings, waves, vines, birds, and something about it feels both ancient and alive. You walk closer, your footsteps soundless on the stone floor. The mirror ripples faintly, as though it's made not of glass, but of clear water. The cat hops gracefully onto a fallen block beside it and sits, staring at the mirror's surface. Its reflection blinks back at it then. Slowly, another shape appears beside the reflection. You, but the reflected you, looks slightly different, not older or younger, not changed in any alarming way, just more settled. Your shoulders hang loose, your face is soft, your reflection looks like it knows how to rest. You watch it, breathe. It breathes when you do, perfectly in sync yet somehow calmer. You realize that this is what you look like when you stop trying to hold the world up by its corners. A ripple passes through the mirror again, and suddenly, your reflection begins to walk forward toward you. You blink, startled for only a moment, but it doesn't feel frightening. It's not a ghost or illusion, it's simply you, stepping out of worry into ease. The glowing orbs drift closer, circling the space between you and your reflection. Their light deepens, shifting to warm amber and rose gold. You feel their hum against your chest, matching the slow, steady beat of your heart. Your reflection smiles softly, then fades like mist touched by dawn. The mirror still ripples, but now it only shows the drifting orbs, the cat, and the stillness of the ruins. You touch the surface once. It feels warm and alive, like touching the back of someone's hand. Then the mirror releases a faint, musical tone, one single note that lingers in the air long after you step back. The cat meows quietly, a small, questioning sound. You crouch beside it and scratch behind its ears. I think it was showing us what we already knew, you whisper, that nothing's wrong, that it never was. The cat's purr starts up again, blending with the hum of the lights. You sit on the cool floor, the mirror behind you, the air glowing all around. The orbs continue their slow dance overhead, moving in no particular order, but with perfect grace. They seem to follow an invisible music, the same music that has guided everything in these ruins since before memory began. As you rest there, the light thickens slightly, like fog made of gold dust. It wraps around you in a loose, glowing cocoon. The cat curls beside your leg, warm and small. You can feel its steady breathing against your ankle, a rhythm so peaceful it could lull even the sun to sleep. You lean back, letting your hands rest flat against the stone. The ground hums faintly, in tune with everything else, the orbs, the air, your own heartbeat. And as you close your eyes, you feel as though you're floating not upward, not downward, but inward, into the very heart of stillness. You're not sure how much time passes. It might be minutes, it might be the length of an entire dream, but when you open your eyes again, the orbs have begun to drift toward the open sky above. One by one, they rise silently through the morning air, fading into the blue until the hall is empty once more. The cat stretches and stands, looking to you, then toward another doorway revealed by the lifting light. You smile. "All right then," you say softly. "Let's see what waits next." You stand, brushing faint dust from your hands. The mirror gives one last ripple like a wave goodbye and goes still. The two of you step out of the hall of drifting light, the memory of its glow still clinging to your skin like a soft, invisible shawl. Outside, the world feels newly washed. The wind is gentle, the scent of green things returns, and far off, somewhere between sunlight and shadow, you hear the low chime of bells that might not exist. You breathe in, deeply. The day continues, not as something to conquer, but as something to rest inside. You emerge from the hall of drifting light into open air again. The ruins give way to a wide expanse, a meadow stretching out beneath a pale sky. The light here feels softer, filtered through thin clouds that move lazily, unbothered by the passage of time. The breeze carries the scent of clover and crushed leaves, mixed faintly with the memory of the sea. The cat steps onto the grass first, pressing its paws into the dew-damp earth. You follow, feeling the coolness seep gently through the soles of your shoes. Every step makes a faint whisper, as if the ground itself is breathing with you. You look around. At first, the meadow seems empty, but as your eyes adjust, you begin to notice shaped stones, hundreds of them, scattered in loose, imperfect circles. Some are tall, some squat and rounded, some half buried in moss. Their surfaces shimmer faintly, not with reflected sunlight, but with the quiet sheen of long memory. The cat winds between them with purpose, as if walking through a familiar crowd. You trail behind, and soon you begin to feel what the stones are doing. They are not standing still, they're listening. There's no movement, no vibration, nothing you could point to. And yet, in the space between them, there's an energy like the silence between two notes of a song, alive, poised, waiting for you to notice. You stop beside one of the stones. It's shoulder height, oval-shaped, smooth to the touch. When you lay your palm flat against it, warmth hums faintly beneath your skin. Not heat, just presence. You hear a sound, barely a murmur, not from outside, but from inside your mind. A whisper, so soft it's almost part of your breath. We are what remains when remembering becomes too heavy. You draw in a slow breath. The wind moves through the grass, bending it in waves. The whisper continues, like a thought shared by the earth itself. Once, people came here to speak their thoughts aloud. They said them to the stones because the stones never answered. They just listened. You kneel, resting both hands on the stone now. The texture is rough in places, cool and solid. You think about the hundreds of voices it might have absorbed, the hopes, the worries, the confessions, the simple chatter of lives long gone. The cat settles beside you, eyes half closed, as if it too is listening. Without meaning to, you find yourself whispering something small. It's not a grand revelation, just a fragment of thought, something about how strange it feels to be so calm in a place meant for ruin. The stone hums faintly under your hand, and though it gives no answer, you feel understood. A light mist begins to roll across the meadow. The stones fade in and out of it, appearing and vanishing like quiet giants moving through dreams. You walk slowly among them, touching one now and then, each one humming in its own quiet frequency. Some feel warm, some feel cool. One has a faint scent of rosemary, as if it remembers the hands that once placed herbs there as an offering. You find a stone larger than the rest, shaped almost like a reclining figure. You sit against it, its surface curved perfectly to your back, as though it's been waiting for someone to rest there again. You breathe, the air moves gently in and out of your lungs, and the stones seem to breathe with you, each exhale matched by the faint sigh of wind passing through the grass. The cat climbs onto your lap without hesitation, turns twice, and curls into a perfect circle. Its purr rises and falls, perfectly timed to the soft rhythm of the meadow. And then the sound begins. It's not quite music, but it's not silence either. A deep, slow vibration fills the air, resonating from the ground up. It feels ancient, but tender, like the first note of a lullaby that has no end. The stones are singing, not with words, not with voices, but with the weight of centuries pressing gently against the air. Their song vibrates through you, through the cat, through every blade of grass. It's the sound of patience, of waiting without hurry, of knowing that time is not an enemy. Your body relaxes completely, your shoulders sink, your eyelids grow heavy. The cat's purr merges with the deep hum, and for a moment, you can't tell where your heartbeat ends and the earth's begins. The melody, or the feeling of it, swells for a while, then fades. When it does, you open your eyes. The mist has thickened, turning the meadow into a soft blur of gray and green. The stones stand silent again, content in their stillness. You sit there for a long time, neither awake nor asleep, balanced in that perfect in-between where thought and dream share a single breath. When the cat finally stirs, stretching and shaking its fur, you follow its gaze toward a cluster of taller stones in the distance. Between them, faint and golden, a doorway of light has appeared. You rise slowly, giving the stone behind you one last grateful pat. Its surface seems to pulse faintly beneath your palm, like a heartbeat saying farewell. The cat leaps down and begins walking toward the doorway, paws disappearing and reappearing in the mist. You follow, the sound of the humming stones fading behind you, replaced by the soft rustle of grass and the distant call of unseen birds. As you approach the doorway, the light brightens, not blinding, just enough to make the air feel weightless. The cat passes through first, and for a heartbeat, its silhouette glows gold before vanishing. You take a breath, step forward, and cross the threshold. Warmth wraps around you immediately, gentle as a blanket pulled up on a cold morning. Behind you, the meadow fades into memory. Ahead, the next part of the ruins waits quiet, unassuming, and filled with the promise of more beautiful nothing. The golden light fades as you step through, giving way to soft, honey-colored shadows. The air inside is warmer, thicker, scented faintly with paper, dust, and the slow sweetness of old wood. The cat walks beside you, now no longer leading, no longer following, just keeping pace, tail swaying like a calm pendulum, marking the rhythm of a forgotten clock. You look around. You seem to be in a library, but not an ordinary one. The shelves curve gently, built directly into the walls, spiraling upward and outward like the inside of a seashell. Yet there are no books, at least not in the usual sense. Instead, the shelves hold bundles of thread, feathers, smooth stones, seashells, and tiny jars of sand. A soft light emanates from somewhere above, golden and constant, with no visible flame. Each object hums faintly, a sound too quiet to be heard, but too real not to feel. You walk slowly between the shelves, brushing your fingers along them. Each touch awakens a faint shimmer, like a sigh of memory stirring in its sleep. You pick up a small jar filled with pale gray sand, its surface swirling as if moved by invisible breath. When you tilt it, you hear something, not words, but a whisper of a story that never made it into language. It feels like standing in a museum of everything left unsaid. The cat hops onto one of the lower shelves and curls up, eyes half closed, as if to say, "Take your time." You wander deeper in. At the center of the room stands a wide wooden desk, worn smooth by time and use. On it rests a quill that has never known ink, and a sheet of parchment that remains blank. though it glows faintly from within as if a story is trying to appear, but keeps choosing silence instead. You reach out and touch the edge of the page. Instantly the air shifts, the soft light ripples. A gentle voice, neither male nor female, neither young nor old, fills the space around you. This is where forgotten thoughts come to rest. You glance around, but no one is there. The voice seems to come from everywhere at once, from the air, the shelves, the objects themselves. Not the great epics, not the clever poems, only the quiet ones. The letters never sent, the diary pages never filled, the songs hummed once and never again. They live here now. You let your hand rest on the page. It's warm to the touch, softer than paper has any right to be. When you lift your hand, a faint mark remains. Not ink, not color, just the ghost of your fingerprint, glowing for a moment before fading. Do they want to be read? You ask softly. The voice pauses, as though smiling. They want only to be remembered as possibilities. You look at the jars again, at the feathers and shells. They shimmer faintly, as if nodding. Each one, you realize, is a story that almost existed, a thought interrupted by sleep, an idea lost to hesitation, a kindness that was imagined but never spoken aloud. And yet, being here, they are whole. The cat hops down from the shelf and pads toward the desk, leaping lightly onto it. It sits beside the parchment and looks up at you. Its eyes catch the golden light and turn into tiny mirrors. Would you like to write something? The voice asks gently. You hesitate. But I don't know what to say. You don't need to know, the voice replies. Just begin. You pick up the quill. It's lighter than you expect, almost weightless. The blank page seems to breathe. You dip the quill into nothing. There is no ink, no well. And yet, when you place its tip upon the paper, lines appear, not dark, not sharp, soft, glowing strokes like moonlight on water. You don't even think about what you're writing. Your hand moves on its own, steady and unhurried. When you lift the quill again, you see only a single line written there. I was here, and I listened. The words linger, glowing faintly, before dissolving into the parchment, as though absorbed. The voice whispers again. Every listener leaves something behind. That is how places remember. You set the quill down. For a moment, the library feels even quieter than before. Not empty, but fulfilled. The silence hums, warm and round, like a full belly after a good meal. The cat stretches, hops down from the desk, and begins padding toward another doorway at the far side of the room. Before following, you take one last look around. The shelves gleam faintly, as though hundreds of unsaid things have turned their invisible heads to watch you leave. The air feels heavy with gratitude. You whisper a simple goodbye and step into the corridor beyond. Immediately, the scent of lavender returns, carried on a faint breeze. The air grows cooler. You glance back once the golden glow of the library fading behind you, swallowed gently by distance, and then you move on, lantern in hand, cat at your heels. The floor here is smooth stone again, lined with delicate carvings of vines and eyes and tiny curling spirals. You run your hand along the wall as you walk, and though it's cold, you can still feel the heartbeat of the place beneath your palm. You pass a low archway that opens to the outside. Through it, you glimpse another part of the ruins, a terrace overlooking the valley below. The light out there is dimmer, as if twilight has returned early. The cat pauses in the doorway, looking out, and then looks back at you. All right, you murmur. Let's see what evening brings. You step outside. The air is cool again, brushed with mist. The first stars are appearing in the sky, pale, blinking slowly to life. Somewhere, faintly, you hear the sound of running water. The cat leaps onto the stone ledge and watches the horizon, tail curling like a soft question mark. The day feels as though it has folded itself neatly into the palm of the night. You breathe in deeply, the scent of moss and fading light filling your chest. The ruins behind you sigh quietly, content to hold their stories, written and unwritten alike. The air outside the library feels heavier now, not with discomfort, but with that soft, full quiet that comes just before the first raindrop falls. The cat pauses on the ledge, ears twitching, then glances at you with a look that seems to say, "Come and see this properly." You follow. Beyond the terrace, a narrow staircase curls downward toward what looks like a garden sunken into the ruin's heart. It is half wild, half remembered, its paths overgrown with vines and dandelions, its walls blurred with moss and thyme. Yet despite the disarray, the place radiates a strange kind of tenderness, as though it still dreams of being tended. The cat trots down first, hopping over puddles of stone and patches of grass. You follow more carefully, feeling the temperature shift as you descend. The air is cool, perfumed with rain-soaked petals, soil, and faint hints of mint. When your feet touch the garden floor, the first drop of rain lands softly on your hand. It's gentle, almost hesitant, as if asking permission to begin. You look up. The sky is the color of pewter and pale lilac. Raindrops glint in the dim light like falling pearls. They strike the stones, the petals, the cat's back, each drop making its own small sound. The cat blinks, unimpressed but not displeased, and shakes its fur once before curling up under a stone arch. You smile, stepping forward into the rain. You let it fall on you freely. It's warm and clean, with the faintest scent of rosemary, the kind of rain that feels like a gentle conversation rather than a storm. Around you, the garden begins to awaken. Flowers that had looked wilted or asleep lift their heads. Ferns unfurl, their leaves trembling with droplets. A small stream that had been dry for who knows how long begins to murmur again, threading between the stones, like a voice rediscovering its song. You walk toward it, lantern light reflecting off the moving water. The stream gathers into a shallow pool in the center of the garden, where lily pads float like tiny islands. You crouch beside it, watching as concentric circles ripple across the surface. There's something mesmerizing about it, the way every drop finds its place, joins every other, and disappears without resistance. You dip your hand into the water. It's cool, but not cold, and as you swirl your fingers, the ripples expand outward, slow and deliberate. For a moment, the rain grows heavier, then steadies again. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm of it lull you into a near trance. The steady patter, the murmuring stream, the soft thrum of earth breathing beneath the surface. And then you hear it, a voice not in your ears, but in your chest. "This garden was planted by dreamers," it says, gentle as the rain. They believed that if a place could remember softness, it could heal the hardness of the world. The rain seems to pause, listening to itself. Each seed here was planted not for beauty, but for rest. Each petal was meant to teach the sky how to sleep. You open your eyes. The pool has changed. Beneath its clear surface, faint shapes shimmer, roots that twist into spirals, glowing softly with pale blue light. The longer you look, the more they resemble threads weaving together, forming patterns like constellations beneath the water. The cat pads over, silent as shadow, and sits beside you, eyes fixed on the glowing pool. It dips one paw into the water and then watches as small ripples carry outward rings of light that fade slowly into stillness. You feel a sense of wordless peace settling in your chest, the kind that makes even breathing feel like a gift. You lie back on the wet grass, unbothered by the dampness, and let the rain fall onto your face. The drops hit your forehead, your cheeks, your eyelids, each one distinct yet part of the same slow, ancient rhythm. The ruins around you seem to exhale, the walls darkening with moisture, the moss deepening into rich, emerald hues. Everything is alive, not in the loud way of cities, but in the quiet, patient way of things that have always been alive. The cat curls up beside your shoulder, its warmth seeping into your arm. You listen together as the garden sings its soft, endless lullaby. Somewhere above, thunder murmurs not as a warning, but as a kind of punctuation, a reminder that even the sky likes to hum when it rains. You stay there until you lose track of time. The rain lessens, turns to mist. The garden glows faintly in the after-rain light, every blade of grass tipped with silver. When you sit up, the pool has stilled. The glowing roots beneath have dimmed, sinking back into their secret rest. The cat stands, shakes itself once, and looks up toward a small stone archway covered in vines. You follow its gaze. Behind the curtain of leaves, you can see faint light, warm, golden, flickering like candle flame. You stand slowly, feeling the weight of calm in your body. Every step toward that light feels like walking through a half-remembered dream. At the archway, you pause. The cat is already on the other side, waiting patiently, tail flicking in that familiar rhythm. You take one last look at the garden, the glistening stones, the faint mist, the soft shimmer of dew, and whisper a quiet goodbye. The garden answers with silence, but it's a living silence, thick with gratitude. You push aside the curtain of vines and step through. On the other side, the air smells faintly of smoke and honey. Somewhere nearby, something wooden creaks a door, perhaps, or a chair being moved. The light grows warmer, the kind that promises comfort, maybe even a fire. The cat walks ahead, pausing once to make sure you're still following. You are. You always will. The passageway narrows, its walls thick with ivy and old brick, until suddenly it opens into a wide, circular chamber. You stop in the doorway, surprised by how familiar the space feels. At the far end stands a massive hearth carved directly into the stone, soot-darkened and half-collapsed, but unmistakably once the center of life here. The air carries a faint, lingering trace of smoke and spice, like someone once baked bread here every morning for 100 years, and then quietly stopped. You take a few steps forward. The cat follows, padding softly across the dusty floor, its paws leaving clear prints on the thin layer of ash. The room is dim but not gloomy. Shafts of amber light filter through cracks in the walls, illuminating small objects left behind. A chipped cup, a wooden spoon turned gray with age, a piece of faded fabric, still folded neatly on a stone ledge. Everything looks as if the people who lived here simply stepped out one afternoon and never came back, leaving their warmth suspended in the air. You approach the hearth. Though cold, it seems alive in some quiet way. The ashes inside are pale and fine, and faint imprints of logs remain ghostly patterns of what once burned bright. You kneel down, brushing your fingers lightly through the dust. It's cool, powdery, almost silky. And then you hear it, a faint, crackling sound, so soft it could almost be imagined. You look up. For a moment, you think you see embers glowing in the dark hollow. Not real fire, more like the memory of one. The cat sits beside you, staring into the hearth, its tail curled neatly around its paws. It doesn't move, doesn't blink. You get the sense it's waiting for something. You whisper, "Is there still warmth here?" A voice answers, not from the hearth, not from the walls, but from the air itself, speaking in tones like gentle wind through dry leaves. "Warmth never leaves," it says. "It only hides in quieter forms." You tilt your head. Then why did the fire stop burning? There's a soft sigh, because everything that burns must rest. You look again into the ashes. They shimmer faintly, each speck reflecting a color that doesn't quite belong to this world. Copper, rose, blue, and gold. They swirl once, forming the outline of a flame that dances for a heartbeat before fading. The cat rises, pads into the hearth itself, and curls up right where the ashes glow. It doesn't disturb them. It merely settles, small and serene, like a flame taking the shape of fur. The faint shimmer brightens around it, and for an instant, you swear you can feel heat against your skin, subtle, soft, perfectly balanced between presence and memory. You sit cross-legged nearby, resting your hands on your knees. The warmth grows just enough to ease the coolness from your fingers. You close your eyes, and the sound of that almost fire fills the silence. A gentle crackle, a whisper of air rising. Then the voice returns. "This hearth burned for those who built the ruins you walk through. Every evening, they came to its light, not to speak, not to worship, but simply to share the silence together. They let their tiredness melt into its glow until night itself became tender." You imagine them faces you'll never know, hands reaching toward the same warmth, their laughter faint, their lives small and gentle and full. "When they left," the voice continues, "they asked the stones to remember the feeling of sitting close to a flame. That was enough. And so, even now, when you stand here and breathe, the warmth knows how to return." You smile faintly, eyes still closed. The truth of it hums in your chest. Everywhere in these ruins, every stone, every echo, every patch of moss, something has remembered how to care. The cat purrs softly, the sound vibrating through the floor and into your bones. The rhythm of its breath mingles with the faint hiss of the unseen embers. It feels less like sound and more like pulse, the shared heartbeat of you, the cat, the hearth, and the world. You open your eyes again. The hearth glows brighter, now not with fire, but with light as soft as dawn, seeping gently into every crack of the room. Dust motes swirl lazily through it, golden and slow, like drifting sparks. You take a deep breath and notice something new, the scent of tea. On the ledge beside the hearth, a clay pot you hadn't noticed before begins to steam. The handle is cracked but strong, the lid slightly crooked. You reach for a small cup sitting nearby and pour, watching the pale amber liquid swirl with wisps of warmth. It smells of chamomile, honey, and something faintly citrus. You take a small sip. It's perfect, just warm enough, just sweet enough, a flavor that tastes exactly like safety. You hold the cup with both hands, feeling the warmth seep into your palms. The cat watches you, eyes half closed, content. "This place," you whisper, "it's not really about ruins at all, is it?" "No," the voice answers, quieter now. "It's about the pieces of warmth that refused to disappear. You set the cup down carefully beside the cat. The air grows still again. The faint glow from the hearth softens, fading to the calm gray of old stone. You don't feel sad that it's gone. You can still feel its warmth beneath your ribs. When you stand, the cat rises too, stretching in that long, luxurious way that cats have perfected. It looks toward a low doorway at the back of the room, a small arch, half hidden by creeping ivy. You can see faint light flickering beyond it, soft and silvery, like moonlight reflected off still water. You take one last look at the hearth. The cup of tea still steams faintly. A trail of smoke curls upward, vanishing into the shadows above. You whisper, "Thank you," and then, following the cat once again, you step through the ivy and into the cool silver light, beyond carrying the warmth with you, quiet and alive, burning softly where no one can see. The air changes again the moment you step through the ivy. It's cooler now, crisp and clean, smelling faintly of rain-soaked stone and distant blossoms. You find yourself standing at the edge of an open space, a wide terrace of broken marble that slopes gently down toward a lake. The cat walks ahead, its paws making no sound on the wet stone. The surface of the water shimmers faintly in the moonlight. At first, you think it's reflecting the stars, but then you notice something strange. The moon is nowhere in the sky above. It's only in the water, a perfect silver circle, rippling slightly with every faint breeze, glowing brighter than the world around it. You step closer, your reflection joining the moon's in the lake. The ripples spread from where your shoe brushes the surface, bending the light, merging your image with the moon's glow. For a moment, you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. The cat sits beside you, tail curling neatly around its paws, staring into the reflection with an expression that almost feels reverent. You whisper, "It's beautiful." The cat's ear flicks. A faint sound answers you, not quite an echo, not quite a voice. It's the sound of water speaking in its sleep. "She fell here once," the whisper says. "The moon. She was tired of watching from afar." You look across the lake. The surface stretches into mist, where outlines of trees and stones blur into dreamlike shapes. "She wanted to rest when no one could reach her," the voice continues. "So she sank beneath the stillest waters she could find. The sky has missed her ever since." You kneel at the water's edge, your lantern reflecting in small golden circles. The moonlight ripples softly against it. "And she never went back?" "No," the lake sighs. "But now and then, the sky sends clouds to visit her, and the wind tells her stories of the stars." "That's enough." You smile faintly. "That's enough for me too." You dip your hand into the water. It's cool but not biting, smooth as silk. When you lift it again, droplets cling to your skin, glimmering like tiny moons of their own. The cat walks closer, balancing on the edge, and peers down into the water. The ripples distort its reflection, turning it into a shadowy creature of light and movement. You wonder if the lake, too, is looking back at both of you, curious, kind, amused. Behind you, the ruins are quiet. Their outlines glow faintly in the moonlight, softened by mist. You realize how far you've come, how many silent places you've walked through, each one waiting to be remembered. A breeze moves across the water. It carries with it a faint, musical sound. Bells maybe, or wind chimes made of glass. You can't tell where it's coming from, but it fills the air like a lullaby. The cat stretches, steps closer to your knee, and presses its head against your arm. The gesture is small, but grounding, pulling you gently back from the edge of dream. You whisper, "She's still shining down there, isn't she?" The lake ripples, as if nodding. Always, she learned that even beneath the surface, she can light the world. You sit down fully now, cross-legged on the damp marble. The moon in the water seems to grow larger, its glow expanding outward until it touches your shoes, your knees, your hands. The light doesn't feel cold, it feels like warmth turned inward, like calmness made visible. The cat lies down beside you, its fur reflecting both your lantern's gold and the lake's silver, two colors of quiet, the warmth of memory and the stillness of reflection blending into one. You close your eyes. Behind them, you can still see the shimmer of light moving across the water, as if it has seeped beneath your eyelids. The air hums faintly with peace. Somewhere, far away, you can hear an owl calling. The sound echoes over the lake and returns softer, like a promise. When you open your eyes again, the moonlight has changed. It's brighter now, not blinding, but full, wrapping everything in a soft silver glow. You notice faint shapes beneath the water, arches, columns, fragments of another ruin, half buried in the lake bed. The moonlight flows over them like silk over bone. You realize that this, too, was once part of the same world you've been walking through. The same hands that built the courtyards and the kitchens, the same hearts that fed the hearth. The lake is simply another room, one that chose to lie down and dream instead of crumble. The cat lifts its head, watching something you can't see. Then, without hesitation, it steps forward into the shallow edge of the lake. Its paws make small ripples that dance outward in perfect circles. You laugh softly. You'll get wet. The cat turns its head slightly, as if to say, "And you won't?" You roll up your sleeves, take off your shoes, and wade in after it. The water barely reaches your calves, but it feels endless beneath your feet, soft, weightless, a moving mirror. The moon's reflection bends around you, surrounding you in silver. The cat walks a few paces ahead, then stops, standing perfectly still. You do the same. The lake around you grows completely calm. The ripples fade, the air stills, and then, for the briefest, most perfect moment, you see her, not in the sky, not in the reflection, but everywhere, the moon's light rising from beneath the water like a breath returning to the world. The surface glows brighter and brighter until you can no longer tell where the light ends and the air begins. You stand there, breathing in the soft shimmer, feeling every cell of your body slow and align with the rhythm of the world. The cat's purr vibrates faintly beside you. Yes, even here, in the middle of a dream lake, when the glow finally softens, fading back into the quiet of night, the cat turns and pads toward the shore. You follow, water dripping from your fingers like falling stars. Back on the terrace, you sit once more, watching the lake return to stillness. The moonlight rests gently now, content to remain below the surface, where it has chosen to belong. You whisper a thank you, not to anyone in particular, but to everything. The stones, the water, the quiet, the light that stays even when unseen. The cat shakes its paws, unimpressed by your reverence, and begins walking toward a pathway lined with wildflowers, glowing faintly in the silver dusk. You rise, following it once more. Your footsteps echo softly on the wet marble, the sound folding into the hush of the ruins. Behind you, the lake gleams one last time, just enough to remind you that even what sinks is still shining somewhere deep below. The path from the lake slopes upward again, winding gently through the ruins. The wildflowers that line the edges brush softly against your legs as you walk pale, white blossoms that glow faintly in the moonlight, releasing a scent like honey and quiet rain. The cat leads as always, tail held high, pausing now and then to make sure you're close behind. Its fur looks silver under the sky, as though it's borrowed a little light from the lake. Soon, the flowers give way to stones again, smooth, flat slabs arranged in what used to be a road. It rises toward a ridge where the faint outline of a bridge appears. You stop when you reach it, surprised by its beauty despite its wear. The bridge is narrow and simple, its sides built from uneven stones, its middle arched in a perfect curve. It stretches across a wide chasm filled with mist, the far side barely visible. You step closer. The wind that rises from below is cool and sweet, carrying the smell of wet moss and something faintly floral, perhaps jasmine, perhaps something older. The cat doesn't hesitate. It walks onto the bridge as though it's just another garden path, its small paws perfectly sure on the worn stones. You follow, placing your steps carefully, feeling the faint vibration of the wind beneath your feet. The bridge hums as you move, not with the weight of stone, but with a kind of low, melodic vibration, like a string pulled taut between two forgotten songs. Halfway across, you stop and look down. The mist below swirls slowly, illuminated by unseen light. At first, it seems empty. Then you begin to notice faint shapes within it, shadows of doorways, rooftops, arches, fragments of a city that might once have stood beneath this very place. The cat stops too and looks down, its ears tilting slightly. It doesn't seem surprised. You whisper, "Do you think that's what this bridge used to cross?" The wind answers for you, gentle but clear. Once, long ago, but both sides forgot. You turn your head slightly, listening. The voice is soft and androgynous, like the whisper of two tones blending together. "It used to carry people and stories and songs," the wind continues. "But when the city below fell asleep, the bridge stayed awake too long. Now, it doesn't remember where it began or where it ends." You rest your hand on the cold stone railing. "Does that make it lonely?" The wind pauses before replying. "Not lonely, just at peace." It learned that connection doesn't always need distance to hold together. Sometimes it's enough to simply remain. You look out across the chasm again. The far side of the bridge shimmers faintly in the mist there, but not quite solid. The cat walks ahead, its figure haloed in the glow. Each step it takes leaves a faint footprint of golden light that fades as you follow. Halfway across, you feel something subtle change in the air. The hum beneath your feet grows softer, lower, like a lullaby winding down. The stones feel warmer now. You stop for a moment, letting your fingers trail along the railing. The bridge seems to pulse gently, alive with memory. You realize that every person who ever crossed here left a trace of themselves, footsteps, laughter, sighs, words shouted across the wind. It's all still here, folded into the stone. The cat pauses near the far end and looks back at you, eyes glowing faintly. You walk toward it, your steps slow and steady. The mist below rises and falls like the breath of a sleeping giant. As you reach the end of the bridge, the wind shifts again, and you hear faint voices like echoes of people long gone, speaking in a language that doesn't exist anymore. Their tones aren't sad. They sound like the kind of people who once stopped mid-conversation to watch the sunset. You close your eyes and listen. The words mean nothing, but their rhythm means everything. Kindness, patience, peace. When you open your eyes again, The mist below has cleared just enough to reveal a reflection not of the city, but of the stars. The entire chasm glows with them, as though the sky has doubled itself just for this place. The bridge now seems suspended between two infinities, the heavens above and their mirror below. You stand there in the center of it, and for a moment you feel weightless, as though you too are made of stone and starlight and memory. The cat meows softly, pulling you back to the present. You smile and whisper, "Thank you for waiting." It blinks slowly, a cat's version of a nod, and steps off the bridge. You follow. The path on the other side is narrow and covered with ivy. The air feels warmer again, filled with the faint chirp of crickets hidden somewhere in the grass. You glance back once. The bridge is barely visible now, half in shadow, half in light, stretching into nothingness. You realize you'll never cross it again, and that thought feels neither sad nor final, just true. The cat begins walking ahead once more, leading you along a trail that winds upward through the ruins. Ahead, the faint glow of torches appears, flickering amber through the mist. You take one last look back at the bridge and whisper a quiet blessing, not for what it connects, but for what it remembers. Then, turning back to the glowing path ahead, you keep walking. The sound of your footsteps fades behind you. The wind sighs softly across the stones, humming its endless, patient note content to keep its own company halfway between everywhere and nowhere. The torches ahead burn with a calm, steady flame, each one set into iron brackets fixed on ancient pillars. Their glow turns the mist a warm amber, and shadows ripple softly across the walls like breath. The cat walks in the center of the path, its paws silent, its tail flicking in rhythm with the soft flicker of firelight. You follow it into a wide hall, where the air seems thicker, layered with time. The ceiling arches high above, though the edges fade into darkness. The floor is smooth, polished by the passing of countless feet, yet not one sound echoes here. The hush is so complete, it feels deliberate, as though silence itself has made this place its home. The cat pauses halfway in, then sits, facing the long stretch of the room. You stop beside it, sensing the difference here. These ruins are not dead. They are listening. At the far end of the hall stands an empty dais framed by tall, half-broken statues. They depict no gods or kings, just simple figures of people, each with one hand raised as if in greeting. Their faces are worn smooth, their features erased by wind and centuries, but somehow their presence feels kind. You walk forward slowly, the soles of your shoes barely whispering on the stone. The torches behind you sway once in a passing breeze, and their flames bend toward the center of the room as though bowing. You stop near the dais and wait. Nothing happens at first. The silence is so vast, you can hear your own heartbeat, steady and clear. Then, without warning, a soft vibration passes through the floor, so faint it feels like the ground exhaling beneath you. And then, finally, you hear them. Voices. They are not loud or startling. They rise, like mist, gentle, many, layered, filling the air with a murmur that doesn't seek attention. You can't understand the words. They're not meant to be understood. They are not speaking to you. They are speaking around you, through you, with you. The cat stands and walks slowly toward the dais, weaving between the pillars. The flames along the walls flicker brighter for a moment, and you see movement in the air, not shadows, not spirits, but ripples of light, shaped like the outlines of people. They stand in loose circles, their gestures slow and graceful, as though engaged in a conversation that has never ended. You take a step closer. The nearest shape turns slightly toward you, and though its face is made of nothing but pale light, you feel the weight of its attention. It's not curiosity or judgment, it's recognition. The whispering grows louder, but never harsh. It swells gently until the words form patterns, rhythms that sound like breathing, like ocean waves, like the steady pulse of the earth beneath its own weight. You realize that this is what remains of everyone who ever passed through these ruins, their sighs, their laughter, their songs, their quiet thoughts, all of it gathered, layered, and softened by time until it became something new, an eternal whisper. You sit down on the nearest stone step. The air vibrates gently around you, not like sound, but like the hum of being alive. The cat curls beside your feet, eyes half closed. Its fur stirs slightly in the unseen current of those ancient murmurs. You close your eyes too. For a while, you simply listen. The voices don't tell stories. They are the story. They hum about nothing and everything. The rhythm of rain on roofs, the taste of fruit long forgotten, the comfort of resting after work, the sweetness of remembering without needing to hold on. Each breath you take feels like joining them. Each exhale releases something old you didn't know you were still carrying. When you open your eyes again, the hall is brighter. The torches burn higher, their flames steady and gold. The rippling shapes have begun to fade back into the air, dissolving one by one like petals, melting into sunlight. But before the last of them vanishes, one figure lingers near the dais. It raises its hand in the same gentle greeting as the statues. Its light shimmers softly in the air between you. The voice that comes is different, clearer, almost human. You have listened long enough, it says. That is all this place ever wanted to be heard. You nod, not speaking, because words feel unnecessary here. The air around you glows once more, then dims. The figure fades completely, leaving only the quiet hum of the hall and the cat's faint purr echoing in its place. You sit for a moment longer, letting the silence settle. It no longer feels empty, it feels full. The cat stands, stretches, and looks toward another doorway at the far side of the hall. The torchlight reveals stairs leading upward, carved directly into the rock, winding toward faint daylight. You rise slowly, giving the hall one last glance. The statues, the pillars, the air itself, all of it seems to pulse with quiet satisfaction, like a heart that has finished a long sigh. As you reach the steps, you realize you can still hear the whispers faintly behind you, but now they sound different, not distant, not ghostly. They sound like your own thoughts, softened, peaceful. You climb slowly, the cat leading as always, its tail brushing lightly against your hand as if to guide you. The torches fade below. The air grows cooler again, touched with the scent of morning. When you reach the top of the stairs, light floods in a pale, golden dawn, breaking over the ruins. The sky stretches wide and clean, the first sunbeams painting the stones in soft amber and cream. The cat walks ahead and sits at the edge of a wall, facing the horizon. Its silhouette glows in the new light, its fur haloed with warmth. You stand beside it, breathing in the morning air. Somewhere below, the echoes continue, but now they sound like birds beginning to sing. And for the first time, you feel that the ruins have truly woken. The first light of morning spreads over the ruins like the slow unfolding of silk. It softens everything. It touches the broken columns, the mossy walls, the empty windows that once framed other lives. The air is cool and wet with dew, carrying that fragile golden silence that only exists before the world fully wakes. You stand beside the cat at the edge of the wall. Below you lies the valley, still veiled in mist, its edges glowing with soft white light. You can see the faint line of the bridge you crossed, the shimmer of the lake where the moon still sleeps beneath the surface, and the shadowed shape of the old garden that dreamed of rain. All of it feels both far away and impossibly close, as though the ruins have folded themselves into your memory, becoming a part of you in ways you haven't yet understood. The cat sits still, gazing at the horizon, tail curled neatly around its paws. The rising sun catches its fur, turning it from silver to gold. It seems perfectly content to simply exist, to watch, to breathe, to be. You inhale deeply, letting the cool air fill your chest. The scent of earth, moss, and faint wood smoke lingers from the hearth below. Somewhere behind you, the faint whisper of the Hall of Echoes continues, now so soft that it sounds more like wind through tall grass. You find a flat stone nearby and sit. The warmth of the sun has just begun to reach it, and it feels pleasant against your back. For a long while, you do nothing. You don't need to. The ruins have taught you that stillness is its own kind of story. The cat stands, stretches, and pads a few steps closer, rubbing its head gently against your knee. Its purr rumbles quietly, steady and reassuring. You run your fingers through its fur, feeling the gentle rise and fall of its small body. The two of you sit like that for a long time, watching the light shift over the stones. The ruins seem to breathe, walls brightening, shadows retreating, colors deepening from gray to gold to the soft ochre of morning. The birds begin to sing, first one, then several, their calls overlapping like threads weaving a pattern in the air. The sound is delicate, but full of life. You can almost imagine that the stones themselves are listening, pleased. A breeze rises, warm and slow. It moves through the ruins like a hand brushing dust from an old book. Somewhere, far below, the faint ringing of water can still be heard. The lake, the stream, the memory of rain. You close your eyes and let all the sounds blend together. The birds, the wind, the distant water, the cat's purr, your own breath. It becomes one long, slow rhythm. And in that rhythm, you realize that nothing about this place was ever truly ruined. It simply changed shape. The temples became courtyards for flowers. The libraries became gardens for silence. The halls became shells for echoes that learned to whisper instead of shout. And even the bridges that forgot what they connected still held up the sky. You open your eyes again. The cat has stood and begun to walk along the wall, balancing easily as if it was strolling a familiar path. It stops once to glance back, as if to ask whether you're coming. You smile. Just a moment more. It seems satisfied with that, and settles down again, curling into a ball, half in shadow, half in sunlight. You let your gaze wander. The valley below has begun to clear. You can see the faint glimmer of a river winding through it, and the dark shapes of distant trees waving lazily in the wind. The whole world looks half asleep, caught in that sweet hesitation between dreaming and waking. You take one last slow breath, feeling the air move through you like light through glass. There's no need to rush. The ruins are not going anywhere. The stones will keep humming their soft songs long after you leave, long after your footprints fade, and somewhere the cat will keep wandering these paths, part guide, part guardian, part quiet friend to anyone who dares to find beauty in what the world forgot. You rise, stretching your arms toward the soft morning Sunday. The light warms your face, your hands, the inside of your eyelids when you close them. You turn once, looking back at everything, the archways, the overgrown steps, the quiet rooms still filled with stories too small to be written down. You smile, feeling an ache that isn't sadness, just the gentle fullness that comes from having seen something complete. Then you look forward again. The cat has already started down another path, disappearing briefly behind a curtain of sunlight and ivy. You follow, unhurried, each step quiet and deliberate. The air is cool at first, then warmer, touched with the scent of wild thyme and new leaves. The mist lifts completely. The sky above is clear now, soft blue, streaked with the pale remains of dawn. You walk until the ruins fade behind you, until the hum of their silence becomes just another note in the morning breeze. You don't look back again. You don't need to. The ruins, in their quiet way, will always remember you, and you, in yours, will always carry them. The bridge that forgot, the lake that dreamed, the hearth that glowed without fire, and the cat that showed you the art of stillness. As the last of the mist disappears, you exhale once more and smile. The world is calm, the day has begun, and this time you decide the morning can stay.